Okay, all right, round three. All right, hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Pop Culture Pod. I am one of your co-hosts, Juan Perez. Hunter hates me and wants me to die, so I had to bring in two of my dear friends to join me today. First is my brother, Julian Kiley. Thank you for joining us. Tall, lanky, handsome, he's the man. Next one, Ryan Adder. Worst game takes you've ever heard in your entire life. How are you boys doing today?
You shut the fuck up. Hello, I'm doing good other than that shit take already. Good. But, you know.
So, we were talking in Discord before we started. We were talking about game systems, and we'll get into what Ryan wanted to talk about with people who never game, watching them game. So, we were talking about controllers and how confusing it can be for some people. And the one thing that I wanted to say before this turns into a how much I hate PlayStation podcast, the one thing I will say, PlayStation and Xbox were always unified to where it's like, I don't need to look at the controller. If it tells me to hit X, it tells me to hit A, it tells me to hit L2, right trigger. At least I know every fucking time the buttons are going to do the exact same thing. So once you know where the buttons is that one time, I'm good. That's what I wanted to say about that when we were talking about it before we started recording.
I've never really thought about that. Yeah,
I mean,
most games, X does those buttons do it.
I was about to say, as someone who's played on like all three consoles, I feel like it's just kind of like other than Nintendo being like the outlier with just having such weird layouts for all of their controllers, you know, from like GameCube to Switch having like A and B swapped as well as X and Y are the same, but A and B are swapped for some reason. Like Nintendo's literally just like always been like the odd one out because they want to be unique.
Yeah, sometimes I do have to look at that button mapping to figure out like what the fuck are they talking about, because like when Jess plays The Witcher.
You know what button mapping? Mm-hmm. Do you want to know what button mapping screwed me up until like I was like 18 or 19? It's just because like I feel like it was never used. L3 and R3. I never knew that you had to click in on the stick for that command. I was just like,
I didn't learn that until Julian got his PlayStation 5. I did not fucking know that.
It trips you up.
Teach me that when he got the new controller.
The only time that shit ever threw me off, the first time I figured out what those buttons were, was the original God of War on PlayStation 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that. They did that for QuickTime events.
Oh, fuck, you are right.
That's how you use the rage mode.
2, right?
Yeah, that's how you turned on your rage mode.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. God of War was such a weird game for me, like to hop into, because like I started up the game series by playing 3, which is just the end of the game, and
it's also the best
and
one.
Played 1 and 2, and then went. I legitimately oh my god, the start of the game and just curb stomping Poseidon is one of those like gaming memories that is locked in my head forever. Because I wasn't able like to play rated M games when I started God of War. That was back when I was still in like middle school. We went on vacation and our friend had it, and I ended up playing it, and that was like one of like the first like gory rated M games I had played.
Nah, the first one is stuck in my head forever. I had an older brother, 4 years older than me. I shouldn't have been playing that game.
Yep.
Literally the start of the game, you have to have sex with this girl.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, you have to do it. There's no moving on. Like, you have to do it. And then, like, 10 years later, you're like, here's your son.
Oh, is that where his son came from? Was the whore at the beginning of that first game?
No, but everybody just acts like it is.
I was going to say, because those are completely different eras. That's
it was a giant meme when
apart.
the first God of War came out for, what was it, PlayStation 4?
Yeah, I was about to say is that, spoiler, his son is a giant. He's Loki, so he has to have been from this era.
I only ever watched Julian play the later ones, like the ones after 3, so it's like I don't have a whole big conception of the game, because it would basically be like, hey, do you want to see a badass boss fight? And I'm like, I don't care, we're sitting here drinking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm down for whatever the fuck you want.
I feel like God of War and like the remake and Ragnarok didn't really have they had like cinematic fights, but the combat itself never really
the story
felt that
was great, but they
godlike.
definitely didn't have the boss fights that we grew up with on PlayStation 2. Not even
Yeah, because in the
slightly.
original games, you could literally get the dog shit beat out of you by the gods, and in the other ones, it's very Naruto-esque, where a lot of like the Naruto game bosses, you're kind of just pressing the button it tells you to press. Like you said, very cinematic.
Yeah, it's very God of War. They definitely took from the original series in the parts that they needed, in the sense of that when you think about like God of War, you think like the original 3 games were these epic set pieces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's that was this whole thing, was that like you go through these combat sequences and then you have a giant epic fight, and they did, to their credit, some boss fights in God of War and Ragnarok are some of the coolest things. Now, I'm just going to say, in Ragnarok, the first time you play against Thor, right? In the first fight, you lose against him, and then is one of the coolest things I've seen in a game, which is that Thor goes, "I'm not done with you yet." He uses his hammer and shocks you back to life, and then like get up,
round 2,
we're not done.
Like that.
I think they did that in Dragon Ball too. I'm pretty sure somebody. Yeah.
Did
I
they?
think it was when Vegito got eaten on purpose so that he could fuck him up on the inside. So it's like I do like that sort of thing where they do that. I kind of wish, this is one of the things that I've been telling. Well, I've been telling you because you were going to let me borrow your PS4, Ryan. But I was telling Julian a lot when we talk about
whenever.
Is that a lot of these games that I didn't talk about, which when me and you were texting earlier, we were talking about exclusives. There's not a lot of PlayStation exclusives that I didn't wait out. Like, I've survived longer than the exclusivity of it. Now it's on Xbox. But some of the games like Ratchet and Clank, the other God of Wars, because I've never played God of War 2. I had to watch it on YouTube because I'm that old. Like, I want to go back and I want to play these games. So I eventually plan on getting a PS2, but now that they're moving away from disc, a PS5, sorry, I have a PS2. Now that they're moving away from disc, I'm hoping that all the disc PS5s going forward are going to be cheaper.
You can literally just borrow my PS5 whenever. It is literally just it is just a machine to play college football with Jimmy. That's
fair.
So whenever you want it, legitimately, you can just borrow it. I've been trying to I've literally been like messaging my buddy, being like, "Come over, take my PS5 and go play Silent Hill. You'll love it. Please play Silent Hill."
I'm pretty sure all the Silent Hills I played were on PlayStation 2, if I remember correctly. Wasn't that a PlayStation 2 thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 1
there was one on PlayStation.
Silent Hill 2 was PS2. See, now, like, I played Silent Hill 2 on the PS2 before. See, now, like, when Silent Hill 2 like remake came out, I was like, I don't really like horror games that much. Like, I don't really like the gore or most of the shock value. But I played Silent Hill is not about upfront, oh my god, that's horrifying. It's more or less about your mind playing tricks on
I don't
itself.
like
that. You're like, what's around that corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
What's about to happen?
Literally makes me so fucking stressed out, bro. I'm already losing my hair. I don't need more of it.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful psychological horror that I don't think that can be done.
You'll
within
literally
movies
just
or
stop
anything
moving
like
and just
that.
listening to the song. Like, something's about to happen. I don't want to go that way.
know.
I don't want to go that way.
That's what I was about to say, is that one of the biggest things in Silent Hill 2, at least to me, when I've played it through like multiple times, is the lack of noise. There's no soundtrack. There's only just creaking and awkward noises.
Well, maybe you should get tinnitus like me. You never have to worry about that.
Buildings creaking. Brother, I already got tinnitus. I'm just wearing
Every
headphones
time
all the
it's silent, I just hear this beautiful ringing, and I'm like, well, I can't be stressed out if I can't hear nothing. No, all right. So let's expound on that. So, Sea of Thieves, Julian was actually with me the day Sea of Thieves came out. We were chugging tequila in my mom's basement, and we were trying to look for the Kraken.
Sure.
So
I forgot about
when
that.
I play Sea of Thieves, I never forget about it. Every single time I look at Sea of Thieves on my home screen, I'm like, I remember that time we were 17 years old and got fucking wasted.
Yeah.
So I was, every time I play that game, like, I love it. It's one of my favorite games, especially now that there's so much more to do in it. But if I fall into the water and then I start to hear like a dun 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 dun, I'm like, well, just fucking kill me. Kill me. I don't want the suspense. And there was one fucking time me and Julian were playing and we found an underwater cave system where you could like get loot and there's like little air pockets and stuff. And I'm like, hey, Julian, can you run the loot up? And he was like, well, why do I have to run up the loot? Because that's like I'll have a fucking panic attack the whole time I'm in the empty water. I can't do it.
And like I wasn't even thinking about
That's
like
one of-
the Kraken or anything. It's just like you want it, go get it. I don't play this game like that. I only play it when you want me to.
Well, it's because I get fucking scared when I'm in the empty water and I'm like, a shark's going to come eat my asshole. And I don't need that right now.
That's what I was just about to say, is that I think it was like a perfect interlude into that, because it's literally like the fear of the ocean is essentially the fear of the unknown. You have no idea what's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm not
happen.
a big fan of that.
That's the same thing. Yes, that's the same thing that Silent Hill replicates, is that you literally have no idea what's going to come up next. It is beautiful. It is one of the greatest games I've played.
Probably one of the only
growing
good
up-
early video game adaptions, too. I feel like the movies were pretty decent. I always enjoyed them personally.
Growing up, Silent
I
Hill
never
didn't
watched
really
the movie.
scare me like that, to be honest. I don't know why, but it didn't. The first time that I ever had a video game where it was like, no thanks, honestly, was probably the first BioShock. That little kid, when I was a kid, terrified me.
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That little
BioShock's
girl.
another good example of like when you're just walking around and then there's nothing and then something rattles above your head and I'm like, whoop, just kill me.
Yeah, it is. It is the horror of the unknown, as well as just like unraveling that entire the undersea city. It's wild. You literally have no idea what's going to come up next. And I remember like seeing like Rapture for like the first time as like one of those memories that's just engraved in my brain in terms of gaming.
Well, how about we preface for people who don't know, because some of the people who listen wouldn't probably have met you and
Yes.
Julian. We're all in the same grade and we're all the same age. Julian's a little bit older, but like by a
Yes.
year. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, a lot of these memories we're all going to have together, especially for the fact that we all were playing these Japanese systems when we were younger. So it's like, we're going to definitely have a lot of those very similar experiences in this game. And I know exactly what you mean. Do you guys want to know something funny? Is I have this clear fear of water. Me and Jess's honeymoon is going to be on a cruise. And
That's
when I went to
awesome.
go buy what's that?
So that's awesome. Have fun with that.
Oh, it's going to be awesome, dude. Because what I told her, because she was like, well, you're scared of like the sea and stuff. So what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, if the boat sinks, just think about it like this. I'm dying. Like, I'm not getting on the cabinet with you. It's not going to be romantic. I'm putting a life vest on you and then I'm diving. Like, I just don't care. Like, I'm out.
I'm gonna go find
good.
whatever's
It's not
gonna
gonna
eat me.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't need it.
I think the key part of that sentence is you clarifying that this will not be romantic. I'm dying. It is
No,
over.
she'll live a great life.
There's no
she'll live a
romance.
good life. If she ever gets another man, I'll haunt her. But like, she'll live a good life. I'll be fish food. I'm cool with that. I'm good with it. But I'm not gonna just float in the water like a fucking nerd, hoping I don't get eaten. And then they pull me on the boat and I got no more toes. Kill me. I'm good.
Some federal agents are going to question her, being like, Juan took out such a large life insurance right before the cruise. Kind of curious that the cruise blew up.
Right, literally, and also not sunk, blew up George Bush style. Like, I don't know, dude. I mean, as long as she gets her payday, isn't that what this is all about, man? I'm just here to make her happy.
Yeah, exactly. Payday.
All right. So there is something I want to talk about, guys. And that's the only thing that I need to reach, and then we can talk about whatever else you guys want. Ryan, how much were you into Tony Hawk when you were younger?
I wasn't really that Okay, I lied. I had Tony Hawk Underground 1.
So good.
It's the one where you... It is the one where you do a McTwist over a helicopter.
In Hawaii. All right.
Yes. One of my favorite things to post on social media after like any sort of like national like catastrophe is just being like, man, if someone did a McTwist over a helicopter right now, our nation would
You're
be
a fucking
healed.
monkey. You're a monkey.
It's true.
So me and Julian are into Tony Hawk pretty decently, and me and Jess's good friend Dylan, he's also into that. Like, it shaped a lot of like my music growing up because I had no, even though I grew up in the ghetto, I had no reference for rap music before I started playing Tony Hawk, punk, all that shit. I was never into any of it before Tony Hawk. So that shaped like my music views. So I showed Julian the other day that Call of Duty made a little teaser trailer, like, hey, Tony, a Tony Hawk logo. He says that it's Project 8 logoed, I believe. Isn't that what you were saying, Julian?
Yeah, that logo was in one of the maps, and I really hope I'm wrong, because like we don't need a Project 8 remake.
No, we don't.
So you guys know what they're doing with it, right? What they're doing with
It sounds
Tony
like
Hawk?
they're making a new game. Well, how about we talk about
No.
like how we found out? So it was on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They showed a new map, and then the logo was in the background. So I showed Julian, and he said that, like what his opinions were on it. And then once people found out about it, Tony Hawk and the original crew, I think it was like Chad Muska and like 2 or 3 others. Oh, Bob Burnquist was there. They said new parks loading in the background, March 4th, 2025. So what were you going to say?
So I know what this is. I can tell you guys, but I'll let you guys discuss it, and then I'll tell you what it is. Because I feel like this one's clear as day on what they're doing.
Okay, so what I'm hoping and what I was telling Julian, because me and him actually have very differing ideas on what we want. So I'll start with, no, you know what, Julian? You start with what you were telling me the other day about what you want it to be.
If they're gonna remake another game, I rather them do like one of their open world games. I'm real tired of just here's a map, do these tricks, earn this
I'll
point,
fucking murder you.
find skate,
you.
here's another fucking map.
No,
I hate it. Like, and especially because they gave us 2 games and was like, you know what? That's worth $60. No, it's not.
That was exactly
Only thing
what I
they
was
did
about to
was make
say
the
is
game
that,
brighter
like,
and prettier. Like, that was stupid. I still bought it, but fuck. No, I beat the game in literally a day. Like, we've played this game so many times as a
can't just
child.
Go on about that kind of game.
I don't want
fair.
I don't want another one of those.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And no one knew it was really going to be picking up like the game either. When like you think about like most of these like when you think about most of these like remasters versus like remakes, it's literally just like hitting in on the nostalgia factor. And a lot of like these older games are short, but they were played just a ludicrous amount of time. Because for me, like I only had like Tony Hawk, like Underground, and like Guitar Hero for a
Ryan,
while.
did
So
you?
like yeah. So I spent so much time on Tony Hawk's Underground and Russia, doing the McTwist, all that, replaying that 100 times because that's just like the only game that like we had for a while.
No, and that's why I want a whole world. If I'm gonna spend my money on it, it's gonna be one of the ones that came out a little later that I didn't waste a good 2-3 years playing over and over and over.
Yeah, agreed.
so here's what I was telling him. So Thug 1 and Thug 2, Underground 1 and Underground 2 were my favorite of the Tony Hawk games. American Wasteland was really, really good, and Proving
Agreed.
Grounds was decent. Pro Skater 3 is probably my number 1, but that was because that was the first one I played. We were too young for 1 and 2, but we were at that sweet spot when 3 came out that we could go back and play 1 and 2, especially with the PlayStation 2. You could play them on a PlayStation 2. So anyways, Underground 1 and Underground 2 are my favorite games, and the reason why I like Underground 2 the most is it's got its own storyline, it's got the Jackass guys in it, it's got big maps with changing sceneries, and you can affect the map. So, you blow something up in Boston, it stays blown up. You're in Barcelona, night and day, the stuff with the cow, it changes it. But my biggest thing was old mode, is what I think it's called, old mode. It had every single pro skater and a few underground maps up to that point. So Pro Skater 1, 2, 3, 4, and some underground maps that you would do that, like you guys were talking about, the old 2-minute system of go through and do these things. So since I had such a hardcore love for Pro Skater 2 and 3, and I loved the Thug storyline so much, that's why it's my favorite. Plus, they had a few extra additional ones, like the one where you could go to hell, the Aztec ruins, all that stuff. There was some extra ones in there. So I'm hoping that it's a Thug 1 and Thug 2 remake. But I'm going to be honest, guys, even if it's just a Pro Skater 3 and 4, I'm not going to be particularly mad because Pro Skater 4 was the very first open map one. Even though I did not like it, at least it'll give us that little bit of variety that Julian kind of wants. But if it is and this is the thing too, is that American Wasteland came out 1 year after Thug 2. It had an open world map, different types of equipment to use, like bikes and all that shit. I don't know if they were to remake Thug, why they wouldn't include American Wasteland in there too. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on that, but it's
no.
The same people made it and it came out less than a year apart. Why wouldn't it just come out with it?
Because American Wasteland was big enough to claim as one game. They did Pro Skater 1 and 2 because they were so small. They mashed it together. It's still, compared to games now, small as shit.
Yeah, but Thug 2 is huge, and American Wasteland is equally as big in a different way.
That's why I'm saying they're not going to put it together. Because then it's a big-ass game at that point. Not super big, but let's be honest, Activision isn't the greatest company at, here's a normal game. Yeah.
Compression.
Yeah. Yeah, compression. Their compression sucks. Here's Call of Duty. Here's one game. It's 185 million gigabytes.
Yeah.
My friend always asks me if I want to play Call of Duty, and I'm like, no, I don't have 250 gigabytes for you right now. Sorry, buddy.
I know. I asked Julian because he was playing Black Ops. I'm like, hey, man, I want to play something with you. Let's just play Modern Warfare 3 again. He's like, I'm going to have to see if I have fucking room for it. And that was with Call of Duty already installed. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
It's a little different on PC because you download the Call of Duty headquarters and then you download the game, which at that point, it's not the whole 400 gigs. But on console, you have to basically download every game that came out before it just because they want you to.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Yeah, it has the base code for all the games, and then you just download whatever specific maps you want by downloading the game.
Yeah. That's no fun.
No, I'm not a big fan of it myself, but it's nice because I don't like Call of Duty. I only like the first Black Opses and the first Modern Warfares. I don't like all these remakes. I don't like all this shit and all that, but I will say I do like playing with my fucking boys.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take the L to play a few games with my fucking friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then they try to shut us up with the, you want to play multiplayer or zombies. But it really isn't a big difference, gigabyte-wise.
No.
It isn't.
No,
only Call of Duty I've bought since we were a kid has some sort of zombie mode in it. I don't want to play multiplayer with all these sweaty ass kids. I don't have that in me anymore.
Well, I will say me and you were wrecking motherfuckers. It's only ever easy. Well, not easy. It's only ever playable against these kids, which I can't believe we're at that point now, guys. It's only ever easy with these kids when you have somebody watching your back. Ryan will know from when we play Halo, and you know from when we play Call of Duty. When you're talking to your friend, and I hate doing this because I'm getting on to just chat with you guys. I don't want to fucking be sweaty.
Yeah.
But after you get owned 9 games in a row, you're like, all right, Julian, you're going to have to watch my back. All right, Ryan, let me know where they are on the map.
Shit.
It's so ass
games,
to do that when I want to catch up with you guys.
Yeah.
It's the only way, though. It's the only fucking way to play it.
Yeah, that's the best way to play it. I think. I don't know. I kind of have a competitive brain, so I enjoy that aspect of it at least. So it's nice to chat and then break it up with hey, I think this is going.
All right, I'm gonna call out Ryan right now, and also for anybody who's ever listened, this is the Ryan that I talk about when I bring up Ryan in our chats. I mean, in my post podcast, we'll be playing a game together, and if it starts going bad, Ryan's like, "All right, I'm getting on Twitter." And I'm like, if you get on Twitter right fucking now, I swear to God, I'm getting off for the night. He fucking does it every time. And it makes me laugh. But it's pick up your fucking controller. I know you're not playing right now.
See,
Oh my
but
God.
I'll rage quit like a kid. So like at least he's just going to Twitter and coming back. I'll turn.
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
he doesn't
game
ever
off.
quit. I'll give him that. He does not quit games.
I will not quit, but I definitely will put down the controller and just start, just start scrolling Twitter until I see something funny, and then I'm like, you know what? Halo ain't that bad. But all I gotta say is that some of those lobbies that we get into for like old school Halo are holy shit, those people are just like the most miserable people to play with. They are just absolute crackheads at the game. There's legitimately just like sometimes like when we play like Halo 1 or 3, I'm just getting I spawn die.
Well, me
It
and
sucks.
Julian had to get off of Call of Duty the last time we played, and this is how we started playing Marvel together, was we got in the same games with the same guys, I think 3 times, and they were like, it was like very blatant, like they're cheating, like they have mods on their computer.
Yeah.
They were shooting.
And I didn't even
across
notice.
the
Like
map.
Julian was like, hey, I think he's modding. And I'm like, nah, we just suck. And then it's like, well, me and Julian both had, like 30 kills and 10 deaths each. So it's like, okay, maybe we
Yeah,
don't
sure.
suck. And then you start looking at the kill cams and you're like, oh, they're cheating. And then it's like, oh, haha, that's funny. This is lame, but whatever. Like we're laughing, we're joking about it, we're calling them bad names. And then the next game it happens. And then the next game it happens. And then Julian's like, hey, that Marvel's is done downloading on my computer. Do you want to play now? And I'm like, yeah, let's fucking play that. I'm sick of this.
And those mods are really bad when you're in like a PC server. Like you don't notice it as much when you're playing on console, but I can't play a shooting game with a controller anymore. Ever since I switched back to mouse and keyboard, I cannot play a shooting game with a controller.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I know, and I know that that's the case for like a lot of people. Like my brother-in-law, he'll only use a controller for Souls games. Other than that, he has no interest in it. But he even said, he's like, I don't really want to play multiplayer games because I don't like how everybody cheats. And I'm like, no, I do get that.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because like I don't really like run into it. Like I don't really like run into it like that much because like modding or cheating in like most of my like MOBA like games are such a fucking like pain to do it, and it only gives you like a advantage of like it's like prediction like software or like it makes it or like you can have like a hard to do command just like marked as like a script, right? So like most people just don't do that because it just gets auto flagged now. Most people know what it is. Like there really isn't that much cheating in League of Legends. Like there definitely is like acts of like scripting and stuff like that, but it's not really something I've noticed that much. But I'm also like really like not a high elo player. It's not something I've ever wanted to do.
The only game
Well,
Even
me
in,
and
like,
Julian
that we
play
really
so much
deal with
single
is
player that we
COD.
typically will only play multiplayer with like a...
Yeah.
Would you say, Julian, that a lot of our multiplayer games are just kind of like maybe objective based or kind of free roam multiplayer games is what you play with your friends and what we play together?
Basically,
So it's like cheating in that aspect.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, it's one, it probably doesn't exist that much or it doesn't exist to affect players, but like the occasional time where I'm like, hey, Julian, I got 50 minutes, 45 minutes, or like, Julian's girl's going to be home soon. And he's like, yeah, I could play a few games. We're not obviously going to hop on Sea of Thieves where it takes 45 minutes just to get ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be a quick shooter game, but that's where it's all going to be. And since he's PC, and like you were saying, I don't know if you were saying that on the recording or in the Discord, Xbox is basically just PC at this point. So I'm encountering it a lot more than if you were maybe playing on a PlayStation.
Yeah.
But like they have a lot of like these cross lobbies split up is one thing to note. So like, oh no, speaking of Game Pass, mine did not renew.
I don't even want to talk about that. I yelled at Hunter about it for like, I think I might have told Julian too. I
What,
yelled
Game
at him
Pass?
about it for like an hour because Xbox is so fucking stupid. The new models that every company, this isn't just an Xbox thing. Disney, Netflix, PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, the new models that things are going in, it just makes it miserable for people who were playing or watching or using. Because we're old. I'm losing my hair. I'm going bald.
Sure.
We're at that age where it's like where we're there before a lot of this really crazy has to get profit for every fucking thing you do mode has come in. Like my Xbox that I got grandfathered into, they still raised the price when they promised me 2 years ago, you're grandfathered in, you're good, you're done. They just assume that I'm stupid enough that I'm not going to fucking notice when they increase something that I paid the same fucking price for since I was a little kid.
They
what
did
were you
the
saying,
same
Julian?
thing to the PlayStation. I was playing for the highest of the PlayStation subscription, so I could play
premium, I know what
the
you're talking
PlayStation
about.
1 shit, and it was only like $80. And I know when I paid for it originally, it was around my birthday, because I took all my birthday money, said, bet, PlayStation 1 games. And then this month, all of a sudden, it went from $80 to $120 for a yearly subscription.
Yes.
And I was like, you can kiss my ass. Like, I guess, bye.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know what, Mr. PlayStation?
I love my PlayStation, but like, no, I'm not gonna pay an extra fucking, what is that, like $40 just to play the PlayStation 1 games. I guess I'll go back to just online. Like,
I'll get a PS3. A PS3 will play all 3 generations. I do not need. I'll get a PS3 for $40. For $20.
Dude,
I'm not doing it.
I've been looking at, for like a long time, I've been looking at getting like either like a PS3 or like a PS2 or a PS1 and just modding them, because like you can get a mod for them so that you can essentially just like boot it up and then it has every single game on it.
Yeah.
The first generation PS3 is the best to do that on, because I think it ran on, was it Linux? I think it ran on Linux.
Something like that. But
yeah,
their security is absolutely cracked for PS3 is the thing, is because like they essentially, when they came out, so like when you look back to PlayStation 3 came out after Xbox 360 specifically for the fact of that they wanted it to be a multi-platform thing. You know, it's like, it's a Blu-ray player, it's a website thing, you can have whatever Facebook Meta's thing is now with people.
They encouraged also putting other, what do you call the thing that you run a computer on, like that?
An emulator?
Apps.
What is like your software that you run, like you boot a computer up with?
Operating system.
Yes, operating system. They encourage that at first. Continue.
Yeah, PlayStation 3 was meant to be a grand console, meant to do all of these things, but they made it so complicated. Yeah, so the reason behind it was that the architecture that they had for games was miserable.
Yeah.
It was miserable for people to work on, so no one actually wanted to make a game for like PlayStation 3.
Yep.
And then like you look at like most of like PlayStation 3's like big hits, and it's usually just like a cinematic masterpiece, because at that time the PS3 is nuts. It's just no one had any idea what to do.
They tried to make it a little more like a computer, I felt, and like they
first budget computer is what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, like, I had so many
launching for $700
downloaded on there, so many movies, all these different games, but like, let's be honest, those games around that time they either weren't that good or they just didn't run well.
No, definitely.
I agree. It was a very Genesis. It was a little bit ahead of its time, and then gaming went a different direction for what it was prepared for.
Yeah.
Because like the Xbox 360 really, specifically, I'll be honest, Halo 2 and Battlefront 2 set what the next 10 years of gaming was going to be. And the PlayStation 3 specifically, was planning for what the PlayStation 4 should have been.
Yeah.
So, like, they were just one generation too early, which it killed. Luckily, the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 were so popular. Luckily, they had so many good names under their belt, because it would have literally been a Sega Genesis if it would have been that. Because, let's be honest, the PlayStation 3 was amazing. It was better than the 360 in every way. It's just the 360 was like, hey, people like playing Halo. Why don't we focus on that? Yeah. To where the PlayStation 3 was like, let's make sure that anybody who wants to do anything can do it.
See,
it's like,
I feel like that reason right there is why PlayStation started making so many exclusives. Because the only games that really blew up on PlayStation 3 were the ones that Sony had, like, that Xbox couldn't play.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's fair.
That's what I was going to... like also like another thing like to keep in mind is that like PlayStation 3 like out the gate compared to Xbox 360 did not do that well, but it was more like a snowball rolling down a hill, you know what I mean?
It really gained steam.
Yeah,
it really did, because like you look at like halfway through their life cycle and they're like, you know what, $700 is wrong, here's $600, and then they're like, you know what, this is stupid, how about $300? And then they had that whole ad campaign like to get everyone back into PlayStation and gave, you know,
well, look
like,
at how it worked on the PlayStation 4 life cycle. PlayStation 4 eviscerated Xbox One.
yeah,
Like, it's not even comparable. And I do get like why they were doing what they were doing, because like the PlayStation 3 was so much stronger than the 360 because the Xbox One, the original Xbox, was so much stronger than the PlayStation. That's the only reason the original Xbox did good. Well, obviously Halo 1 was the main reason, but like PlayStation 2 already had such big balls that the Xbox had to overshoot it technically for people to even want to move to America to make games. Because every good American game maker was making PC games, or they just had to deal with PlayStation. Those are the only two options.
See, and a lot
Nobody
of
was on the
PlayStation's 2 games got them in trouble. Like Blitz the League, a lot of the Japanese fighters, everything. They made a lot of
Awesome
gory games, a lot of drug use in games that they got in trouble
Big titties.
for. Yeah, like a lot of shit that we shouldn't have been playing at age.
I agree with you. But it just goes to show like the point that I make, because you're absolutely right. The GameWare is the main reason a game will succeed or not. But like the original Xbox was stronger than the 360 when it first launched. So that's the good comparison. The PlayStation 3 was leagues ahead in hardware, RAM, video card. But it had to recoup that player base.
Yeah.
And then, as we talked about, it did.
It's just like that, like, when I look at PS3 to Xbox 360, right, I think about some of, like, the titles, like, that came out in terms of exclusives. And I feel like it has been the story for a minute, which is that PlayStation, since PS3, PS4, has had so much more substance out of, like, their games. Like, I feel like Naughty Dog is, like, a prime example.
Until PS5.
That's a whole other
We'll
conversation.
talk about that when you're done making your point, because your point's a very, very valid point, which I've already conceded. Me and Julian used to get into fights about it when we were fucking smoking cigarettes in his house and throwing them at each other.
Yeah.
I hated him when he said that when we were younger. You know, like I thought I was better than him because I was just coming off the 360 high. You know, because when we were younger, it was, hey, want to come over and play the original Xbox? Because he didn't have one. And I'm like, he was like, yeah. And then it was like, hey, I want to play this PS2 game. You have it. I'll come over. And then we could do that. And then going into that, obviously, I thought I had bigger balls than him because the 360 was an instant success. But let's be honest, other than like Gears of War, Halo, and then maybe some Fables, you know, there's a few other games. The PS3 literally had like 8 straight years of banger exclusives, and then the PS4 don't even get me started. Like the PS4, it's like I've already said, it's not even a competition. The PS4 was just fucking
Uncharted
amazing.
2 and 3 just being masterpieces of their own. Like they're just
on a next level of storytelling.
Legitimately that. Like I'm like Naughty Dog went from Jak and Daxter to Uncharted 1
Awesome.
and it was okay, and then Uncharted 2 they're like, what if we make a cracked out Indiana Jones movie? And they nailed the formula. And then they did it again. And then they did it again. It's just nuts.
Yeah,
They just don't miss.
And then Sony just started hiring legitimate movie actors to be in all these different games, story-based. And that made some of games that, honestly, I wouldn't even agree were that good, just much more popular because they were real people.
Sony making a headquarters in America was probably the best thing they ever did for their company. That really did help them, and for that fact. And honestly, it's actually funny you bring that up. So now that Rooster Teeth is back, I started listening to their podcast again from way back in the day. It started in 2008. And they were talking about this phenomenon. You're talking about getting big actors to come in. I'm happy that Sony did do that, because before that, nobody took video game voice actors as a serious profession.
Right.
Like it's the same way that nobody took anime voice actors as a serious profession, and then now we revere these people, especially now that they're dying off. You know, people are fucking like having candlelight vigils outside of anime voice actors' houses after they pass away because you never realize until after the fact how much these people mean to you.
Right.
When
Sony specifically made this a profession that was respected, and I will never not appreciate Sony for doing that.
Mm-hmm. When Yuri Lowenthal goes, there's going to be a giant vigil.
Which one's that one?
Oh God, hold on. Let me pull him up. I was about to say, he's like Yuri Lowenthal has essentially been in every single anime that you've ever watched. It is not a overstatement.
Speaking of anime, real quick, I know Julian, you didn't want to talk about it too much because you haven't been watching as much. Did I tell you that I started watching Yu-Gi-Oh in Japanese?
I mean, you brought it up multiple times, telling me how much more violent it is.
God, dude.
I've seen
like
it's still
sometimes.
mid, but it's so much better. I've just been eating it up, dude.
I was gonna say I've seen some of it, but like at the end of the day, it's the same fucking thing. It's just like you said,
Fake news.
it's more gory.
Yeah, it's just more adult. It makes it because I tried watching it in English just so I can have it on and like not pay attention that much to it. And it's like, well, I'm not 6 years old anymore.
I was gonna say
it's not Saturday
all the
morning material.
voices on the English Yu-Gi-Oh, they all sound like children.
They're booty
You don't
cheeks.
get that feeling when you're watching it in Japanese.
And also the fact that they're like clapping people in the middle of the streets with, glizzies and they're fucking bombing out buildings. That shit's just badass to me. Like, I'm like, yes, that's what I need more of that at this point, dude.
Oh, dude, I'm stupid. I was trying to find something to show you who Yuri Lowenthal is, and I'm like, he's literally Spider-Man in the games.
Oh, okay.
The current games, and then in Naruto, he was also Sasuke.
Oh, I know that voice actor. Yeah, he was in a few
Yes.
other big ones as well.
Dude, you will see Yuri Lowenthal in like every single anime. If you look in the credits, he is either a side character, a main character, or he's a background character. No matter what, dude just takes everything. I don't know.
I don't know this guy's name, but the voice actor for Mustang in Full Metal Alchemist, he was basically the main character or the second protagonist in every anime from like 2008 to like 2018. He's another one of those people that I just absolutely love. Okay, let's talk shit about Sasuke real quick. I do want to get back to this PlayStation thing because I want to talk about how shit the PlayStation 5 is. But, so I was on TikTok earlier. I re-downloaded it because Jess wanted me to re-download it when it came back. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you for that. Fucking, they were talking about like the top aura farmers in anime, like the people who just want to stunt on everybody. Obviously, Piccolo is number one for everybody. Like, yes, sure. Piccolo, we see the fit. Thank you. Please go away and stop posing. You're about to get your ass clapped. So, Sasuke was on a bunch of people's lists. And I do not think that Sasuke was always stunting on everybody. I think Sasuke was just the biggest crybaby in every single scene he was in. Like, how are you going to be... And by the way, me and Julian are getting Naruto tattoos and he's getting Sasuke's eye, but we're not going to talk about that. The big thing about fucking Sasuke I can't fucking stand, it's like, you're literally not even the strongest in like your immediate vicinity. And he still wants to act like he's so much fucking better than everybody else. Like, oh, I'm going to be the Hokage. Like, I'll literally get a gun and shoot you in your fucking face.
So that's why it's okay for Vegeta to act like a hoe. Is what you're saying, because he's strong.
Vegeta was also on everybody's list.
I've always hated Vegeta. Vegeta's a bitch. I don't give a fuck how strong you are. I've hated
your
him.
Your royalty
since,
means nothing. Your plan is dead.
Literally.
Hey, whoa.
Since the first time I've seen him, I've never liked him. Me and Seeley argue about this all the time.
He does. He is the best roaster in the original show, though.
He
roasts everybody. Him and Boo are unparalleled in roasting.
One of my favorite scenes with Vegeta is in the is in the Namek arc with the first thing of, oh my god, I forgot what the purple guy is. Either way, it's like
There's
him, Gohan, and Krillin, and they're standing in, and they're like looking at these pods, and then Gohan goes, whoa, these are Mondo cool. And then it just cuts to like Vegeta's head voice going, yes, boys, Mondo cool.
I love that fucking the Namek arc cracks me up because Vegeta is sitting there talking all this shit to the Ginyu Force. He's giving him the middle finger, telling him to kiss his ass.
He's always
and then
been a
immediately gets his
sarcastic
cheeks
asshole.
clapped.
Yeah.
Immediately he pulled a Piccolo and a Yamcha. Immediately gets his ass clapped by him. Goku had to come in and no diff their asses. It's like, bro, come on. But all right, so Julian, I do get your point about him. Like, he is talking way too brazy.
No, and what's funny
to be
is
so
like
cheeks.
now in the like anime that he's like super strong, he don't even talk that much shit. He knows who he is. He just has an attitude problem.
About the balls.
Oh yeah,
True.
yeah, but good because I'm sick of listening to that man talk.
Well, he was talking a lot of shit when what's the stupid the Emperor of the Universe that calls them monkeys?
Frieza?
Frieza. When Frieza was talking all that shit and he was like beating the hell out of Goku when he was Super Saiyan Blue, Vegeta was in the background talking shit the whole time. And he like refused to help Goku, and it's like literally the planet's about to blow up. Your kid and your wife's about to blow up. And he had to sit there and talk all that shit. It's like, bro, you didn't even get Ultra Instinct after 35 years of manga. Get the hell out of here, bro. I know what you mean. He is literally,
at that point,
that's probably why Sasuke is the way he is because he kind of is just Vegeta.
No, I was gonna say, as a kid, I definitely get what people were talking about as Sasuke. Like, as when Sasuke was a kid, yes, he was that little cocky asshole. We got older. I mean, the motherfucker, he takes his ass beating and walks away. He might look angry, but at least shit ain't coming out of his mouth.
Crying about something, dude. It's like, stop crying. Nobody hurt you. Your brother saved you. He told you, and you're still crying. Like, his brother was like, hey, I killed our whole family because I wanted to save the village. And Sasuke was like, all right, bet. I'm going to go destroy the village and then become the emperor of it. And it's like, are you that dumb? And then he's like, you know, he thinks he got a draw with Naruto at the end of the show. And it's like, you were trying to kill Naruto the whole time, and Naruto was not trying to kill you, and it wasn't even really a draw. Naruto was like, all right, I'll leave you alone because I love you and I want to kiss you again. Like, you're literally... I don't know. I can't stand him. And he's definitely got humbled out. Like, Boruto, I think he's way cooler, a lot more humble. I think he realized that Naruto could clap his cheeks, and Naruto kind of wants to, for being honest here, guys. But, like... I can't stand... And Shippuden is my favorite anime.
Realizing that was the whole... fucking reason he left the village in the first place. You seen the damage that Rasengan did to the water tank, and he said, "Shit, he could have killed me."
Yeah,
and then left 5 episodes later.
Yeah, I know. I got that Dylan, our friend Dylan I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast. I got him into it, and he's in love with it. He's at the part where Orochimaru attacks the village, and I'm like, bro, you don't even know yet. You don't even know what's coming yet. But no, yeah. All right, so all I was going to say about the PlayStation thing before we move on to, because we had some other points that Ryan wanted to hit today. I think that PlayStation 5 is super mid because the exclusives. All right, here's a good one for you, Julian. Do you think remakes and remasters count as exclusive titles? Like, do you think that makes up a generation if it's just remakes of old games?
Like, what do you mean? Like, if it was
if Xbox comes out with like 10 new games and PlayStation comes out with 10 new games, but then we'll use Xbox as like the hypothetical here, but half of all of Xbox's games are remakes, would you say that PlayStation has more original titles if they're not remakes?
Yeah. I mean,
all right, Ryan, did you hear him?
A lot of people.
So I think that some of them
as a new game, like everybody's talking about how God of War might be getting a remake for the first one, and it's like I won't be buying that. Like, I've played the first 3 so many fucking times.
First one also still looks so good.
I don't really need it to look brighter and prettier. Like, unless you're truly gonna take the time to like add at least some decent Easter eggs to it, no. Not new. There's nothing new.
So before we let Ryan have his rebuttal, because I want him to have his time with it, because I think his point is valid. We were talking about how I think the PlayStation 5's generation is really horrible. I think they'll probably smack Xbox in the next one, but right now it's really bad because there's almost no original titles. And he was telling me about all these good games. The games are good, yes. But most of the games he was telling me about are remakes. And he's like, if it's a full ground-up remake, it counts. I think that is not true.
So, like, Final Fantasy VII,
Oh
right?
my God,
It-
you're one of those.
no, you are. You guys are losing your damn mind if you want to compare the original Final Fantasy VII to what, like what's come out.
No, I
right,
don't think any of them are special. I'm that guy.
Let him go.
Oh.
Let him have his time because I want to hear his point.
I'm a big. I am a context. I am a extremely large Final Fantasy fan. I have played every single Final Fantasy. It was one of my first RPGs as a child. It holds a very special place in my heart. So, Final Fantasy VII is one of my least liked Final Fantasies. Like,
Okay.
in the original one, I think that it's sloppy. I think that there's a bunch of fun ideas in it, but it really just does not pull itself together.
Okay.
I think that the remake visually, so the visuals, the music, the gameplay, the source material that they maintain, the way that it looks, the amount of times that I would just go into photo mode, or like, do you know the basic thing in Final Fantasy VII, you know, like where like they're in Midgar and like they have like the giant plate above them.
I only played a few of them, and 7 wasn't one. I only played maybe like 10.
So
and I don't even know. I played all the Disney ones too.
the thing that they do in Final Fantasy VII, which I'm very excited to play the second one, because I have not played the one that came out last year.
Rebirth?
Everyone was raped. Yeah, Rebirth. I literally have it on my shelf, but I have not touched it because it's like a 150-hour dive in that I'm just not
That's
ready
why I hate
for.
Japanese games.
Oh my god, I fucking love it. But like the first, the Final Fantasy VII remake that came out, I beat it in like, I think it was like 40 hours, and I did all the endgame content too.
Not bad.
So no, not at all. It was fun. It's so much fun. I think that it's approachable, which is one of like the greatest things. I think that it maintains its aspect of turn-based, which is something that Final Fantasy has kind of turned its back on in the last since like Final Fantasy like 15, 13, because like 13 was like more like active battle than turn-based. Like it still
Hey, what
was,
are we
but it
at
was
now?
different.
Real quick, let me
We're at
ask a question. What are we at
16.
now?
And 16 was just like a fighting game. And I gotta say, all that aside, was one of the greatest stories, one of the most compelling like narratives I've played in a minute. I was not gonna get it because I thought it looked like just utter crap, and I played the demo for Final Fantasy 16. That was one of the most motivated I've been in a minute playing a game. That game has some of the most beautiful set pieces, awesome boss fights. You talk about God of War, that's like the closest contender that I've played in the sense of like I'm playing it and I'm going like, what the fuck half the time.
See, but that's not why I'm playing God of War. I played God of War because I grew up. This is why I stopped arguing with Seeley about Final Fantasy. Because the first thing anybody that loves Final Fantasy says is, oh my god, it's so beautiful. The soundtrack. That's not why I'm playing a fucking video game. I can play the video game with the sound off.
No. Yeah, but the soundtrack... all I'm going to say is that a good soundtrack differentiates a mid-game to a good game for me, though.
That's very
I'll
true.
what I mean?
Because like especially like horror games when we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird when horror games decide they're not going to have any sort of music going on in the background.
Yeah, bad. Yeah, not a good decision.
Yeah.
I think it's a great decision.
And I will say Square Enix, even though I think a lot of their games are very corny. Like I said, I like the Disney Final Fantasies a lot. I know it's called something different. What is it called?
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts. I think they're very, 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 very good games.
Yes.
The thing that I think sets him out the most is, let's be honest, let's just talk about like from a game industry aspect. The fact that he made pre-rendered cutscenes changed the game.
Yes.
Without him, we would not have games the way that they are now.
Mhm.
But music, there was like 2 or 3 games around his time, because his game started early, where music was an aspect of a game. It was Tony Hawk 1, and then maybe some of the D&D dungeon games where they actually had a symphony make the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely set the standard for that. I don't particularly, which we got off the point of remakes, but I don't particularly think that makes a good game for me. The 140 hours for a game that's not connected to any of the other games, I hate that. I like Tales of Vesperia, but that's the problem with it. It's a 100-hour game, great sounds, great looks. It has nothing to do with the rest of the game, so why am I going to play the rest of them?
So, I was getting into the original Final Fantasies because I think that what the remake does the best is that it takes the original idea and turns it into a modern day masterpiece in the sense of that the verticality, to put it into context, in Final Fantasy VII, you are essentially in the slums. You are living underneath a giant, it's like a pillar, and then there's plates on top of it, and that's where the higher ups and the executives live. They literally live on top of you.
Okay.
And the amount of times that I would just look up and just how massive they made it look is just insane. I don't know. It's really cool for me because as a Final Fantasy
he's a
fan,
better
I think
artist
that they did
than he is a
beautiful.
game developer.
Yes.
He's a better artist than he is a game developer. His games are not interesting. The things that he puts into his games, the stuff he puts into his games are interesting.
That's why I dislike Final Fantasy VII Original, because I think that as a game, I thought it was just storyline was boring compared to the rest of the Final Fantasies that you look at are just absolute epics, and then 7 is just kind of like a guy getting angry at a tall man with a sword for half the game.
Right. All right. Well, how about we take this back to the original conversation, and then we'll end up with our final comments because we're at an hour now.
I got this.
So the PS5 has really just kind of had remakes. They've had a couple good games. Miles Morales was fire. God of War, the last God of War was, I don't know anybody who didn't like it. I do not think they've had enough original games in the 5 years it's been out. I think it's not a good generation. Plus, what I was telling Ryan, Julian, Sony has set the standard for all of the things I dislike this generation. Higher prices, no disk drive, making you buy separate attachments for your game that should just come with it, like your game system. Increased prices and prices and controllers. Everything they've done this generation has made the game industry worse. I personally do not like it. I think the hardware is really, really fucking good. I know everybody hates the way it looks. I hated the way it looked. But if I have to look at Julian's face or if I have to look at his PlayStation, you really start to realize how beautiful the PlayStation is. I just fucking...
the moment I took off those white covers and put on the black ones,
yes!
I was like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah, so here's some more lore. One time I fucking came over and this is the first time I went to his new house. And him and his girl just got this new house. I'm like, he's showing me around. I'm like, oh, it looks really nice. It looks really nice. He's like, do you want me to be in the PlayStation out? I'm like, yeah, sure, we can do something. He brings it out, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? He's like, this is a PlayStation. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, my partner got me these things for my birthday. It was black covers, and it basically made it one of the coolest looking game systems I've ever seen. Just the color difference made it look so fucking badass.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose white. That was a bad call.
Booty cheeks.
Because I won't even argue about it. That shit looked ugly. It looked like a giant Wi-Fi router.
It did look like a Wi-Fi router. Oh yeah, they were calling it the Linksys 5 when it came out. Wasn't that what they were calling it? Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, going back to it, I think it's a very bad generation for PlayStation. Especially, like we were going back to talking about, since it's just the PlayStation cast. I think the 3 was so strong. I think the 4 was so strong. The 5, I feel like they put it out because Xbox was ready to do something new. Because, like I said, the PlayStation 4 was so much better. Xbox wanted to do something new. They came out with the Xbox Series X. PlayStation rushed this out. And I think if they would have waited until after the COVID years, maybe 2013, 2014. I mean, 2024-ish time to come out with the new one. They probably would have dominated Xbox going forward. I don't like it. I don't like what they've done, and I want this generation personally to end, and I want Sony to move on. I want them to succeed. I also want a PlayStation 5 for cheap, so, shout out to that. But I want it to move forward because I do not count remakes or anything like that. I just don't think they've done anything super fabulous this time around, and it really, really pisses me off.
So my argument is that I think that some of these remakes have made these games actually accessible to the masses. Like, you look at like Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4, I literally would have never fucking played if they did not fix the aiming. Have you ever played the original Resident Evil 4?
Yeah, it was miserable.
Dude, it's awful. Have you played the remake?
I have not.
The aiming is normal. And I gotta say, I beat that game in like 2 weekends. It was fantastic. And you want to know what? I'm probably gonna go back and do it again. That's what I mean by like making it accessible to like the masses. Like most people, like I'm gonna go back to like Final Fantasy VII, are gonna look at look at it and say, oh, well, I'm not gonna play that. Even though like Final Fantasy VII is like available on Game Pass and available on like most like modern consoles for only like $10. No one wants to play it because it looks old.
I'll be honest. I've never thought about it like that. Because, like, to us, yes, it's a remake. But there's whole generations that have never even seen this game. They've heard of it.
Yeah, exactly. And most people... Yeah. And most people don't want to pick it up. Like, Juan, I've heard you say a bunch of times, it's like, that game looked ugly.
All right, calm down.
Listen,
sound just like it.
Let's just simmer down for a minute. Don't call me out. I'll delete you from the podcast.
It's a valid thing because that's what a lot of people nowadays think. You know what I mean? Is that like we have like new generations coming into gaming that are going to look at like PS1, PS2 era things and are probably like unless they hear like a content creator like talk about it, they're never going to play it.
We put up with a lot of absolute dog shit graphics because of the names that were associated with them. As a good example, when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2002, there was no reason going forward that games needed to look as fucking horrible as they did after that. They chose to look that bad. And then in the early PS3, early 360 games, when games looked that bad, we just put up with it because that was the norm for us. I think that point is very, very valid because I am in the game of I want good dialogue and I want good graphics because I'm going to be playing this game for 100 hours. I want it to look nice. So I do get what you mean. That makes perfect sense to me.
That's like I just posted in the chat, which is something like that. Like we can't put it on the podcast, but in Silent Hill 1, one of the first things that you do, and this is like a perfect example of like it looks like shit, right? But they know that, and they use everything else around it, which is the camera angles that they use, the audio. The audio in the background is just kind of like still and crackling. It's ominous. So they know which senses to activate. But again, no one's ever going to play this. Realistically, no one's going to play Silent Hill 1 on... Yeah.
Well, when Julian was agreeing with you and he said his point, I can't remember specific words a second ago, I will say you guys are making a great point in like, I'm like trying to get out of that thought mentality because a lot of people don't know what the fuck the save icon is. How the save icon for all three of us is a floppy disk. People don't fucking know that it's a floppy disk. They know it's a save icon. So it is good to bring these games into the new generation, and I never once have hated remakes. Literally, I can't stop getting a boner for the Oblivion. Oh yeah, this game looks like shit, Ryan.
Dude, I told you.
So anyways, I can't get around. I mean, I can't even try to act cool in front of you guys. Try to act like a big tough guy. That I don't like remakes. I absolutely adore them. I just had a fucking. Oh, that's good. I was making a list of what we were talking about. I was crying about how I want Thug 2 in American Wasteland 2. I love that, but it should not count as a specific exclusive. It does not count as an exclusive.
Yeah.
And PlayStation and Xbox has to be very careful with exclusives when every single one of those games go to PC. Don't say it's an exclusive if PC players can play it.
Yeah, I've never really thought about the remakes that way though, because honestly, a lot of people our age have switched to PC. So there's most of the people buying these new consoles were our age when we bought the PS4. Like they've never played most of these games that came out on PlayStation 2
probably
originally.
younger. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of these people buying these new consoles were us when we got the PS2 and the Xbox One and the Genesis.
Yeah.
Well, not Genesis, sorry. The GameCube. Continue.
So, I think that's where we draw the line with the words of remaster versus remake. I think that remake is just a upscaled, polished version of the exact game, right?
Yeah.
Remake is like okay, we had to like build this shit from the ground up, right? Like Final Fantasy VII does not look anything like the original Final Fantasy that came out.
Okay.
Silent Hill.
Yes.
Silent Hill 2, for me, I've played both. I think that both are fantastic. I think that the remake kind of butchers on some of the original artistic value that was there in terms of limited camera view and stuff like that.
You do lose that. That is true.
Yeah,
when GTA San Andreas had their remaster a few years ago, a lot of people were talking about how it lost the charm of the sunsets. You lose that smokiness that we grew up playing with.
That's one of the other things is that you look at, so like a lot of games were made to be displayed on a CRT, and then especially when you look at that in terms of like Silent Hill 2 as as a PlayStation game, they use that low poly count to make you anxious because they would show you visuals or characters, like showing up, but you can't really understand what they look like other than, like a basic shape, which, going back to like, again, the ocean, it's the fear of the unknown. You have no idea what exactly this thing is. So it's like, you've seen Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. The first time you run into him, you are in the apartments and you have gone down this hallway like 3-4 times, and there and there are these iron bars, and then you have to go back there to get through a section, and he's just standing there. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything. He's just standing there and he just breathes, and that's all you can hear. And it is one of the most ominous things because you actually have to like go to where he's at, and then he's just not there, which I think was 20 times more scary because I'm like, where did he go? The entire time, like I felt on edge.
Yeah, and having to stretch games out is really weird, like especially because like Julian was showing me his partner setup before we recorded, and it's like she had 2 monitors, and it's like playing a game that was remastered on something like that. It's like you can't recapture the look because you were never supposed to see that wide. You were never supposed to see that.
Absolutely
much.
Not.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we could talk about this all day, guys. Do you have any final word for us before we hop off, Julian, Ryan?
No.
I killed Hunter. He's not coming back. This is my position on the podcast.
All right. Well, welcome to the Juan, Julian, Ryan podcast. Hey, first episode, we're doing pretty good. All right. Feel free to follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us so much, and we'll see you later.